Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't want where it's all gonna end, yeah. If you knew we never want to defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting, holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party? You got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't want where it's all gonna end, yeah. If you think we never want to defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't want where it's all gonna end, yeah. If you think we never want to defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing, if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't want where it's all gonna end, yeah. If you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Oh, somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy. Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. You wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we ever want to defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. And you won't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think that we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit holding, overthrown, postal rolling, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. And you won't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think that we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very, very good morning. Friday the 4th of July 2025. My name is Rajamir. This is one of those sorts of devil in the detail workshops where we go through a report that's been published, and very few people have actually, no one ever really does, takes the time to dissect it in a way that I dissect it and share with you. When I speak about who I am and how I'm different to the likes of Maggie Oliver, Tommy Robinson, Charlie Peters, I come from a different world. I come from a world of policy. I come from a world of looking at the documents, reading what's in the documents, reading what's not in the documents, and making sense of it and communicating with people. In the past, it was government ministers, so that they would understand what was taking place so they could make an informed decision. So that is what I do, or one of the things that I do. So we will do that today with the report, the last of the reviews, reports, investigations. I don't even know what they're called or what Andy Burnham really calls them, but we called it in Oldham an assurance review. So the purpose of an assurance review was to provide assurance that whatever went wrong before is no longer wrong now and we're okay. So that's what the purpose of Andy Burnham's investigations fundamentally were. Now, it's took him the best part of 8 years now. It's took him the best part of 8 years to get to this point. 2017 he started. During that time, not a single person in authority has been named, never mind arrested, charged or prosecuted. It's been nothing but a cover-up exercise from the start, and to demonstrate that, let me try and play something. Once it loads and works, perhaps.
Kate Green, do you regret the lack of survivor voices in this report? Last July you wrote to a survivor, we're calling Amelia, saying that your team would work to include them, but she told us last night that she heard nothing back and no survivors are quoted in this report. Is that a sense of regret for you and your team?
The reports that we've got today from the Inspectorates they're essentially audits of process and systems, and work to a methodology that we know to be robust and rigorous because it's the methodology that those inspectorates have tried and tested over many years. There are novel elements in bringing the three inspectorates together, but the assessment process, the assurance and audit processes, if you like, are absolutely defensible and robust. The inspectorates, I know, considered very carefully whether they would amend or change those processes to hear directly from survivors. There were a number of considerations that they took into account, including, obviously, the difficulties around managing the potential trauma that could be reactivated in carrying out interviews if you've not got the experience and practice of speaking to survivors in these very, very difficult circumstances. Also, that it was really important that we had a holistic picture of what is happening today, and it was not going to be possible on the basis of survivors who we knew were interested in having conversations for the inspectors to speak to more than a very small sample. So we wouldn't have seen that overall picture of survivor experience. So the route that was taken by the inspectors, which I very much welcome, was to work with the stakeholder group that came together, organisations that work directly with and support survivors every single day, including the input of the National Association of People Abused in Childhood, who very much are the voice of survivors, are some of the other stakeholder groups we worked with. They're user-led groups, very very much informed by user experience. Now, with the local inquiry, local inquiry supervised by a national inquiry process, I hope there will be an opportunity for a really structured and careful and supportive way for survivors' voices to be heard where they want that to happen. And of course, not all survivors do want to give that personal testimony, and I absolutely understand that. The trauma that reliving those experiences can bring to some people is something we should never, ever overlook or force people into having to experience.
Maggie Oliver resigned from that stakeholder group in January, in part because she said survivors' voices weren't being heard. You say that not every survivor wants to speak out because of the trauma involved. Obviously, that's true, but plenty do, and frankly, you haven't spoken to them.
I hope that there will be appropriate processes for survivor voices to be heard in the inquiry processes that are now going to be taken forward. I don't want survivors to be asked to speak out about traumatising historic experiences without all the protection, the care, the safeguarding, the understanding of the psychological support that may be needed as they are giving that testimony to be in place. And it seems to me that if we are asking for that process to be set up, it is not right to do it in the context of a formal systems audit, which is about something different and which draws on the different professional expertise and experience of the inspectorates.
That was a masterclass in bullshit. Kate Green, ex-MP. I've sat in a room with Kate Green in my past. Masterclass in bullshit. Deflection. Duplicity. It is a genuine masterclass. Andy Burnham was apparently too ill to turn up. So Kate Green turned up, and that was part of her interview. I can't find all the cameras were there, but I can't find the press release or any of that on the GMCA webpage. So I've gone looking, but I can't find it because I'll dissect all of it when I can find all of it. Also, the report isn't on there, but I've managed to find a report through other means. Spectacular by Kate Green. Wouldn't you agree? Now, she acknowledges that it's an audit of processes and systems. So that's not about looking at actually what took place. It's an audit of the processes they've got in place and the systems they use. So it's got nothing to do with people. So that's a report into rape gangs, where I think it's 71 people or 79 people, I'm not quite sure of the exact number. But in the last report, in part 3 report to do with Rochdale, they acknowledged that they had deep concerns about what happened to a number of the survivors. So this was meant to be an audit of that process. His reporters, Burnham's expert investigators, resigned during this process, and as you've also heard, Maggie Oliver resigned as well in January. So, straight away, they're investigating not what matters, they're investigating whether the paperwork is right. So it doesn't matter what you write with the pen, for instance. We're investigating whether the pen has a nib, whether the pen has ink inside of it. What colour inks are available to us? Not what we do with the pen, what's written with the pen, but the function of the pen. And this is where we now are. She also claims, or suggests, she speaks very fast, doesn't she? She speaks very fast. It is a lovely pen. It's actually my daughter. It's a very simple black thing I use, but my daughter made me a squishy thing for the top. So it lives there now. So no. Invisible ink. Indeed. Terry. So they go actually further. They talk about managing trauma. We're doing the survivors a favour by not talking to them. We're doing them a favour. Imagine what horrific memories might come about if we were to speak to them. So we're doing them a favour. We want a holistic picture. So holistic, so far, and some from such a distance that we avoid any of the detail. And they apparently spoke to a very small sample. They didn't speak to anyone. But it's okay. They've got a national association involved to do with survivors. Of course, if you go and look at that national association, it's got nothing to do with survivors of Pakistani rape gangs. She does, however, slip up in there. Did anyone notice the slip? She seems to already know the format of the national inquiry, and remember, the government have yet to publish its terms of reference. So she seems to know, and she's claiming the national inquiry will supervise a number of local inquiries. So the national inquiry is statutory powers, and the local inquiries were. They'll be in the places where. You know, I know. And then do the local inquiries of statutory powers? Well, the local inquiries have the same format set to them in the same way. Will they each have a judge appointed? No. They are attempting a massive cover-up here in the same style as she's just spoken, where the systems and processes will be looked at rather than the actual gang rape of little girls. So she's let slip there what they are trying or will try and do. A national inquiry with a whole host of local inquiries. Andrew, not here and not for me, I'm afraid, mate. If you want to contact me, by all means contact me. And if it falls into the very strict parameters of what I do, then I will happily engage with you. But not here, mate. Thank you. Let's look at the report. So this is the report, and I will work my way through it for you. So it's the inspection of Greater Manchester Police and its safeguarding partners' approach to investigating allegations of child criminal and sexual exploitation. That's the heading, yeah? Inspection of Greater Manchester Police and its safeguarding partners. There's a foreword written by Michelle Skier, where she tries to, help rewrite history for Andy Burnham. But I want to go back to the title. If it's an inspection of Greater Manchester Police and its safeguarding partners, why can't I find a list of all of its safeguarding partners in this 80 pages? Was a list of all of its safeguarding partners and the named individuals responsible for these organisations. Why is that missing? Why have we not got that? And same with you, Gary. Lisa, I'm afraid I've been on a journey, and this is, I'm trying to do some work, and I understand you and others have nowhere to go, but please don't put it on me. I ran a session yesterday and I wasn't so happy with it, if I'm honest with you. So maybe these masterclasses just won't be run live. Maybe that's what we do. Maybe I just put them out as videos. So, inspection of Greater Manchester Police. $80-odd pages. Let's put some context here. So this is the mayor's story. In July 2017, the BBC broadcast a documentary, The Betrayed Girls, about child sexual exploitation in Greater Manchester. In September 2017, the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham commissioned an independent assurance review into the effectiveness of multi-agency responses to child sexual exploitation in Greater Manchester. From the off, it had nothing to do with an investigation into what took place. It was an assurance review into systems and processes. And it was 3 towns. In January 2020, it was Manchester. 2022, Oldham, because Sean Fielding, the council leader, went running to him to help him cover up what was happening in Oldham. And January 2024 was Rochdale. So these reports focused on 3 local authority areas. So that's what took place. In July 2024, following publication of the final report from the independent review team, the Greater Manchester Mayor commissioned His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Constabulary to inspect Greater Manchester Police and its safeguarding partners. So that was when his original team essentially ran away. So look how he's hidden it there. His investigators were meant to finish this work and they've run away. It's worth all of these things, Louise. It's worth FOI requests. It's all worth all of these things. It's about time for me at the moment, if I'm honest with you. It's about time for me at the moment. But let's carry on with this. Our commission focused on the current and ongoing provision for investigating allegations of child criminal and sexual exploitation. So it focused on whether they had the capacity, the systems and processes and the capacity to do so. And you can see how they've gone about it. Reflecting on our findings from this commission, we can't help but be encouraged by how the force has improved its practice. The improvements have been secured by the hard work and contribution of various parties. Never say who the parties were. These begin not least with the experiences of victims and survivors themselves. You know and I know that they've not spoken to a single victim or survivor in compiling this report. So how can these improvements begin with the experiences of victims and survivors? And then they're going about their partners, third sector organisations, councils, yeah, but all in a very vague way. Who are the third sector support organisations? Who is involved in the Greater Manchester voluntary community, faith and social enterprise sector? Who are the other individuals in Greater Manchester? Who exactly are we thanking? The original investigators were two chancers by the name of Malcolm Newsom and Gary Ridgway. Malcolm Newsom was involved in all of what took place in Rotherham. And Gary Ridgway is a former policeman who's on record confirming he is, and I quote, a Labour Party man. That's right, isn't it, Gary Ridgway? On record, quoting in front of Maggie Oliver and a survivor that you are a Labour Party man. The report, these series of reports, was supposed to mark a turning point, confirming what survivors and campaigners have said for years: the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it is designed to do so. You can see it. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly how it's designed to do. And it's designed to protect itself. But this is a scandal they cannot redact, like the document. And whilst Greater Manchester Police to this day are still hiding real figures, 1,099 they've confirmed, and then they're backtracking. If you listen to people, oh, some of these might be same people with different names. Let me show you something. Let me show you something before we continue of what sense I've been able to make of this 1,099 nonsense. The grooming gangs operate this way. There are those that recruit. So it's the young people, it's the takeaway staff, sometimes the taxi drivers, and of course there's overlap. But the recruiters, the ones who identify and target the girls, how many of those are in the 1,099? 0. Tell me, great Andy Burnham, if I'm wrong. Then there are those who initially rape. Then there are those who traffic, and that includes drugs. And then there are those that are the customers. And actually what takes place is this. The recruiters are smaller in number. Those who initially rape are more. Those who traffic and drug, they become into a network, and the customer base is massive. So if we are looking at the 1,099, it is always, on the evidence we've seen, this. It's the overlap between those who initially rape and then traffic them. The customer base of 50 a night, in the tens of thousands, I reckon 10,000 plus. They never go after them. And they never go after those who recruit because they're young, and they would have to admit that the schools across this country have been infiltrated by the rape gangs. Now you can say it's in the past. How can you say it's in the past if you've not investigated it to determine how much it took place? So let's start. Now, what I'd like to do is just very simply show you, let me delete this, very simply show you "15 findings in the report that should alarm each and every one of you." The first one in the report, and they've picked up on this, is the obstruction by Manchester City Council. And it's materials provided by Manchester City Council took months to arrive and was so heavily redacted that some pages contained only a few words. If you follow this story, you'll have read the headline. This isn't redaction. It's concealment. The word you're looking for is concealment. That's what they did. They concealed. And Manchester City Council, as confirmed in this report, actively delayed justice by gutting documents. That's not incompetence. It is institutional protectionism, shielding the reputations instead of safeguarding children. Where is it on this report? He says, there must be a thumbnail system here, surely. Never mind. I'll find it. So this came out yesterday. I got my hands on it at about lunchtime. And in between everything else, every page I've read. It's in here. If you look at page 56, 57, you'll find it. Here. Sorry, wrong pen. Materials provided by Manchester City Council took many months to arrive and were so heavily redacted that some pages contained only a few words that made it impossible to assess the evidential value of the information. But it's okay. We've agreed a new memorandum of understanding and process. Agreeing something is not the same as implementing something. This is just gobbledygook bullshit. So you can see it there. Number 1. Obstruction by Manchester City Council. Let me list these for you. And if you want, get in touch with me. I'll send you the document I've got with all the page numbers. They're more or less accurate, but you'll find it. So 1 was obstruction. That's right, isn't it? Obstruction. That's a fair word. Remember, this is the same Manchester City Council that lost the minutes of an investigation that they ordered shut down that let 97 rape gang members walk free. The second one is victim silencing and exclusions from investigation. That's throughout pages 68 to 75. The force historically provided a poor level of service to some victims and survivors, that result in a loss of trust and confidence. So the consequences of what they've done and what they continue to do means that there is a loss of trust. Why? Victims said they were ignored, blamed, dismissed. And the abuse didn't end with the offender, it was perpetrated by the system. Perpetuated by the system, sorry. It was perpetuated by the system. They are partners in the abuse. Speak to survivors and they will tell you. Speak to parents, they will tell you that the police and the council are partners in the abuse. The third one. Ethnicity data has been collected. Greater Manchester Police admit they now collect ethnicity data. They're the only ones in the country apparently. So why is it hidden from public scrutiny? The force now, and I'll quote, the force now records demographic data such as age, sex and ethnicity of potential victims and suspects. The force doesn't routinely publish this information. The limited public understanding ... could undermine community trust. So if they told us what the demographics were of the people who committed this crime, it could undermine community trust. They collect the ethnicity data and they won't publish it. Transparency would force a reckoning, one that senior police officers and their political masters still want to avoid. That's number 3. Let's see if I can find it on this page. Give me 1 second. I've not marked it up because I don't want to. Give me 1 second. Let me just cross-reference my pages. This will be on 63. This I want to show you as well. Sorry, wrong pen. This I want to show you. Might as well see it whilst I'm here. The force now has a record of 27 organised crime groups. 27 organised crime groups across Greater Manchester involved in the gang rape of children. Here you go. The force records demographic data such as age, gender and ethnicity of potential victims and suspects. So why is he not publishing it? The Force Intelligence Bureau produces a monthly intelligence summary pack about child sex exploitation, child criminal exploitation and adult exploitation. The Force hopes that when they are ready, more victims and survivors will ask for support. It's nonsense, isn't it? Absolute nonsense. So the ethnicity data is collected but hidden from public scrutiny. Then we have training gaps. That's right. Remember, it's done so well. Well, hidden in this report is how there are still training gaps and poor preparation for investigations. There are direct quotes in here that confirm that the improvement plan they have, there's always a plan, isn't there? They're not doing stuff, there's always a plan. Confirms lack of trauma-informed training and officer confidence. So years after the grooming gangs made national headlines, senior officers still lack a basic training. That's not a mistake. That's institutional indifference. That's not a mistake at all. You've seen the next one, but we'll list it anyway. Multi-agency delays and information sharing failures. Legal excuses, reputational concerns, months of delay. This is not how safeguarding is meant to work. This is how you stall justice. These aren't just mistakes of the past, these are the practices of the present. But you knew about that. All of you knew about that. Suggestion. There's no exact quote, but you've got to infer it. Political interference. And strategic silence. While the exact quote isn't found, the report confirms political oversight of communications. So there's political oversight of communications. Why is there political oversight of communications? When messaging is run through political filters, truth becomes negotiable. The goal shifts from justice to damage control. Tell me I'm wrong. Sorry, let me just fix that. I can see something not quite right here. Can I fix it from here? No. I wish I could. You'll have to deal with the... I'll write a bit further along. Is that better? There you go. There's a lack of accountability and lack of oversight, let's say, and weak accountability mechanisms. It's in page 44 to 46, 56 to 57. You'll find it yourself if you want. Confirmed. Gaps in monitoring. No central coordination. No consequence, no challenge, no leadership. A vacuum of accountability where failures become routine. Significant progress, remember. How bad were you if these weaknesses still exist and you're saying you've made significant progress? And 8 to 15, something called the child sex exploitation, they call it MIT. That's the intelligence team, that's the team that does the, with the staff there. Under-resourced, despite scope of abuse. They've admitted it themselves. 1,099 suspects. Over 700 children. That's who they know about because they've admitted themselves as well. Look here. The force hopes that when they are ready, more victims and survivors will ask for support. So they know. They don't actually know the true depth of what's took place. The CSE MIT had 13 of the 59 live multi-victim, multi-offender investigations, pressure and resources, burnout. 1,099 suspects, 13 cases. That's not prioritization, that's surrender. 13 cases. 1,099 suspects. How many live cases? 13 from what I can tell. There's more. Naturally. I need a bigger one of these things. Or one where I can just move my hand and it moves up and down. I'm afraid this is an old one. I keep looking at the new ones, but I don't have that sort of money. Low convictions. Despite the scale. I think it says 42 convictions somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. There you go. In total, the CSE meets an earlier child sexual exploitation and multi-victim or multi-offender investigations have resulted in 42 convictions. So all of it put together, including the investigations they didn't do, has resulted in 42 convictions. At the time of our inspection, there were a number of criminal justice trials scheduled for 2025 involving multiple defendants. Well, how many criminal justice trials are scheduled for 2025? How many are your multiple defendants? Complete absence of detail throughout all of this. They reckon that because they've increased or improved their professional development, and this is apparently something you should take as great, because they've improved their professional development, CPD input, the number of entries on their system about child sexual exploitation increased from 250 to 1,300. So they were under recording because they didn't know what to record. Five times? 6 times? How long were they under recording for? %87% to 90% satisfaction rating from attendees in the training. I'm sorry, how many attended the training? How many attended the training? Can you see? Can you see what they're doing and what they continue to do? They're playing you. Maggie Oliver used the term smokescreen. She just sensed it. Charlie Peters put these people under scrutiny and let them open their mouths and dig a deeper hole. What I'm doing is going through an 80-page report that is still hard to get hold of and demonstrating to you the 15 areas where the cover-up continues, the failings are still on display. Methodically, systematically, and in a way that makes them squirm. Failure to learn from past scandals. Burnham thinks everything's okay and he's satisfied. Just trying to find it. I suppose I could press a button, but I can't be bothered. Since the initial victim and survivor engagement, we found a force had made considerable effort to work with and support victims and survivors of child sexual exploitation. What is considerable? On a scale of inadequate to exceptional, what is considerable? And what does the word effort mean? Does effort mean it worked? No. No. We found that the force had revisited the information and the quality of service it had provided to all 74 children. It identified missed opportunities to support victims and survivors and investigate their crimes. It had also developed its policy for identifying, assessing, supporting, and approaching victims and survivors. It identified missed opportunities. We've improved because we've identified what we did wrong. We've got no evidence to make sure we put it right, but we've identified what we did wrong. We found that dedicated child sexual exploitation investigators had retrospectively recorded some of the crimes the force had failed to initially record. What does that mean? We went back and doctored the documents to make it look like we'd done something when we hadn't. You do not retrospectively record some of the crimes that you initially failed to record. You don't. For some individuals who had been let down by Greater Manchester Police at the initial contact stage, the force was unable to rectify the issues they had experienced. What does that even mean? They'd been gang raped, and you bought the guy who gang raped him and his mates a ticket to fly back to Pakistan. What does it mean? See here, look, the training. The force should review its child sexual exploitation major incident team. That's what MIT is, a major incident team. The force should review its child sexual exploitation major incident team resourcing to make sure it has enough trained investigators. That's an admittance that it doesn't have enough trained investigators. The staff need to have the support they need, including enhanced psychological support. Why? Because of burnout. That's why. They're not even holding regular meetings. Look, investigators should hold regular meetings with senior investigating officers. They don't even have the training to make sure that they have the necessary skills for the role. That isn't Raj Amir ranting, that is in their actual report. That's in their 80-page document. A good time to pause. There's more. If you want more, I'll give you more. I've got 4 or 5 more reasons if there's enough of you here watching and valuing it on a Friday morning. I'd like to go and get myself a drink. It's a chance, as Gary says, for people to sign up to my work, Red Wall and the Rabble. Everything I do is 100% community funded and has been for the last 6-7 years. I am regularly trolled because I ask people for support to fund my work. And no, I am not raising money to support a rape crisis centre or anything like that, because first and foremost, I also need to be able to exist and do the work I do. I put out all of my content for free, and I leave it to people to decide if they just want to buy me a one-off coffee for £3, subscribe to Redwall and the Rabble for £3 or subscribe for the month, or subscribe for the year for about £30, or just take the content for free. That's how I operate. That's what's got us here so far. Who else will do this? Who else has done this? And how do you think this national inquiry has come about? Because this is just one element of the difference I make. I also directly campaign and target and remove politicians, as well as all the awareness raising and the deep dives into what they're doing. So please, if you find value in my work, and I can see a couple of you have super chatted today, so thank you, Rain. Your Rain always gives me £2, and it's, yes, he says it's not a lot, but if the 773 of you watching had given me £2, that'd be, well, it'd be more than I clear most months. Thank you, Darcy. And as always, thank you, Tony. So if my work is of value, and if it wasn't of value, you wouldn't be here. The majority of you haven't, please do sign up to Redwall and the Rabble. If you can afford to pay, pay. If you can't pay, don't worry about it. Sign up anyway. And those of you who do find value, please consider buying me a coffee. It makes all the difference. It genuinely does. Thank you, Elaine. See? It's what I do. It's what I was trained to do. 20 years. I'm going to go and get a coffee. Perhaps you get a coffee, and we'll carry on. Yep. Thank you so much, Craig. Thank you. Thank you so much, Roy. Very much appreciated. I don't even see it. I just can't believe, I genuinely can't believe people are still falling for this shit. And no one is doing this. Hopefully you'll catch up later, Sheila. Thank you. I don't really watch much TV. Is it TV? So I've not really seen it, Craig. I don't. And the only telly, mostly the only telly I get to watch is whatever my daughter's put on, and every now and then I'll peer up from my book or my laptop or whatever, and when something silly has happened. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much. You made the brie. Okay. Let me have a quick look to see if we had any sign-ups. I hear Jeremy Corbyn. I think someone asked me earlier about Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. I think it's just an old-fashioned socialist party they've set up. There's nothing inherently evil about Zara and the Pakistani rape gangs or anything like that. She's not that sort of woman. In fact, they'll you know, if the Islamists took over, taking the likes of me out, she'd be soon on their list. She doesn't wear the hijab, she doesn't conform. You can see that yourself, can't you? I think she's just an old-fashioned socialist. And of that working class roots that the Labour Party have just abandoned. Well, there you go, mate. I don't know anything about it. But if it's started by a biker, mate, it's going to be interesting. Okay, we've had 2 sign-ups. So 2 people have signed up. So I'm grateful to the 2 people who've signed up, and our numbers are just creeping, aren't they? No problem, Emily. I saw you put the question up earlier. Yeah, she's a... I don't think there's a... No. I think the people who hate us hate her. They'll join with her because of her stance on Palestine and all the rest of it. But I think that doesn't come from a Muslim sort of place. She's a nut, she's just an old-fashioned socialist. We've got 10, haven't we? Let me carry on. Let me get to 11. Manipulation of public messaging. Spin. The report confirms the Mayor's Office and local authorities approve communication strategies. Comms teams shouldn't have more power than investigators. When spin doctors are in charge, the truth has got nothing to do with what's being communicated. In my own town, Oldham, the chief executive is the former head of communications in the team, worked in the communications team that helped cover up the gang rape of children. She's now the chief executive, Shelley Kipling. Comms teams should not be deciding what you and I are told. Inconsistent justice. Inconsistent justice. Victims and offenders treated unequally. What do I mean by that? 18 of the cases they looked at, I think it was 50 cases they looked at, 18 had unjustified delays. And some historic crimes had never been recorded. Reading that, it's clear to me that what determines action is not the severity of the abuse, it's the political cost. And that is the definition of moral collapse. What happened to the victims and the severity of what happened is not what determines action. It's the political cost. Yesterday in my own town, police officers sat alongside known Islamists and jihadists as they launched a community support scheme, because of the political links these people have. That's right, known jihadists, known Islamists, the police sat alongside. And these are individuals that the police have protected from investigation, protected from prosecution. This is so cultural, it's embedded. That's how deep this rot is. And the inconsistent justice leads to victims being ignored because of who raped them or what would happen if the news got out that they were raped. Oh, I've done something. I didn't mean to do that. Support for victims. That's victim survivors. It's patchy. Withdrawn. Or conditional. Crisis workers no longer funded. Victim disengagement form should be renamed Victims Lost Trust. These are quotes, verbatim. They pulled the funding, then blamed the victims for disengaging. That's not failure of service. It's a failure of conscience. In the report, crisis workers no longer funded. (14) Failure to implement key recommendations no consistent methodology, no oversight, victim strategy outdated. All of those terms are in the report pages, I think somewhere 23, 24, 25, you'll find them. No consistent methodology, no oversight, victim strategy outdated. Lessons become footnotes and no one is forced to read them. Failure is embedded, baked into the system. You can see it. You can see it here. Look. Let's look back to page, the executive summary. Look here. Since the initial victim and survivor engagement, we found that the force had made considerable effort to work with and support victims and survivors. Well, had that effort made a difference? If that effort had made a difference, who do you ask? Who do you ask? That's the biggest cover up there. Who do you ask if the effort to work with victims and survivors was making a difference? Who must you ask if the effort to work with victims and survivors is making a difference? Thank you. And they have not asked a single victim when compiling this report. So how can you determine progress? And to make it worse, number 15, historical offences were never recorded. They were lost. Forces didn't always record crimes. Quote. 15 delayed investigations. Quote. 3 of 74 children were protected. 3 of 74 children protected. Some crimes were never logged. Others were ignored. How can we move forward whilst we continue to bury what happened in the past? This report isn't what they claim it to be. Read it like I read it, and it's actually a confession. Buried in bureaucracy. Obscured by jargon. You saw Kate Green. With layers and layers of strategy nonsense, gobbledygook. But if you listen closely, if you followed what I've just shared with you in what, an hour and a half, if that, you can see what's going on. The cover-up continues and they know the scale of what they've done. It's here. Buried in the small print, in what is unsaid and what you have to read between the lines. And that's why these people should never be allowed to investigate themselves, because that's what happened here. A peer-led review. Your own people investigating your own people. My name is Raj Amir. I've been at this for just under 7 years. At some point I'm just going to say 7 years. I think it's because I don't have more people signing up, because of the messages I get, which include, Raja, you need to put 30-second videos out. More YouTube shorts. I'm a serious man who's moved into this space. I will not compromise on the level of detail I go into, because I think you need to understand the detail. And that's why I'm looking for 10,000 people. 10,000 people who are with me rather than 1 million for some vanity optics. 10,000 people subscribe to Redwall and the Rabble, who take the time to engage with me, understand what I produce, and go and speak and share and campaign likewise. And we will finish them. It's no more difficult than that. Please, if you find value, like, share. Sign up to Red Wall and the Rabble. 2 today. Maybe a few more of you now who've been here will sign up and subscribe. It's Friday. I'm hoping to spend a weekend with my daughter and to be back on Sunday. I'll of course continue to share content on X and via Red Wall and the Rabble, and hopefully I will see you Sunday night. Enjoy your weekend. Very good afternoon.
Withdrawals in London and Belgium. Check the PDF I sent you over Signal. 2 days
That Councillor Hobin be appointed as Deputy Mayor.
4.2.
Thank you.
Since then, it's a flurry of activity.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Hindle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your new role. It's with great pleasure I nominate my friend and colleague, Councillor Brian Holbein, to serve as Deputy Mayor